You know what's happening. Deep down, you know. That text that took 3 days to get back to you, the plans that keep getting canceled, the I'm just really busy right now that's been going on for 6 months. You know these are breadcrumbs. But what makes you different from other people who would have walked away months ago? Your brain has an entire filing system of reasons why this is actually okay.
And that's the intelligence trap. Smart people don't miss red flags because they're oblivious. They miss them because they're too good at explaining them away. Your ability to see complexity, to understand nuance, to give people the benefit of the doubt, that same cognitive skill that serves you so well in your career becomes the exact thing that keeps you accepting breadcrumbs when you deserve the whole meal.
Today, we're exposing how your intelligence is being weaponized against your own well-being. And more importantly, we're giving you a value-based system that overrides the rationalizing, but only if you're willing to meet yourself halfway in this work.
Because here's the thing, we can give you every tool, every insight, every strategy. But if you're not ready to stop outsmarting yourself, none of it will land.
Before we dive in, I want to share a comment from Yenna that inspired this entire video. She wrote, "How can I build a value system so I stop accepting breadcrumbs? I know what I'm seeing, but I keep convincing myself it's progress when it's not."
Yenna, this is for you and everyone else who is exhausted from the mental gymnastics. We're going to walk through exactly how to build that value system today.
Before we do that, for those of you new here, I'm Tehrina Terry.
And I'm Joel Terry. And this is Da Vinci. We're both licensed therapists. I bring the science.
And I bring the heart. Da Vinci brings the purse. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free. And leave a comment below. I love connecting with you all in the comments. And as with Yenna's comment, it informs what videos we make for you.
Today, we're breaking down why intelligent, emotionally aware people often struggle the most to leave relationships where they're getting breadcrumbs instead of real commitment.
Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Your intelligence is actively working against you in relationships with emotionally unavailable people. And here's why.
Smart people have what psychologists call high cognitive complexity, the ability to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, to see shades of gray, to understand context. This is incredible in most areas of life. But in relationships with avoidant partners, it becomes your kryptonite.
Because while you're over here seeing 17 different reasons why they might be pulling away, such as their job is really stressful, their parents divorced, so commitment is hard, they had a bad relationship before. Whatever the reason, your partner is simply not choosing you.
And this is where internal family systems therapy gives us such a clear picture. You have a protector part, such as a manager part, whose entire job is to keep you safe by making sense of the world. This part needs things to make logical sense.
So when someone's behavior doesn't match their words, when you're getting breadcrumbs instead of consistency, that manager part goes into overdrive. It starts building these elaborate explanations because they're just not into you, feels simply too painful, too chaotic.
Your manager part would rather create a complex narrative, such as they have avoidant attachment from childhood trauma and they're doing their best, than face the simpler truth. Someone who wanted to be with you would show up differently.
Now, we want to be really clear here because this is important. Understanding someone's attachment wounds is valuable. Having compassion for someone's struggle is beautiful. But, and this is crucial, that understanding cannot become the reason you accept mistreatment.
Because here's what we see constantly. Smart people use their knowledge of psychology as permission to stay. Well, I know they're avoidant, so of course they can't text me back. No. Someone's attachment style explains their patterns. It doesn't excuse them from doing the work to change those patterns.
And remember what we always say. Both people have to be willing to do the work on the relationship. You can't do the attachment healing for both of you. So if you are reading every article about avoidant attachment, meanwhile your partner isn't even acknowledging there's a pattern, you're not in a relationship, you're in a research project. Now let's talk about what breadcrumbs actually look like, because smart people are really good at calling them something else.
Breadcrumb number 1, inconsistent communication. 3 days of great texting, then radio silence for a week. You call it, they need space. We call it breadcrumbs.
And your smart brain says, well, not everyone's a constant texter, Some people need alone time. True. Heck, Joel and I are both introverts. We get that. But someone who's genuinely interested creates consistent patterns, not this feast or famine dynamic that keeps you anxious.
Breadcrumb number 2, future faking without follow through. We should totally take that trip. I can't wait for you to meet my friends. And this summer we'll fill in the blank. And none of it actually happens.
Your manager part catalogs all these promises as evidence of potential. See, they do see a future with me. But here's the timeline test smart people need to use. How long has it been since this idea for your future together was made? If it's been more than 3 months and there's been zero movement toward making it happen, it's a breadcrumb.
Breadcrumb number 3, just enough effort to keep you hooked. They show up right when you're about to pull away. Suddenly they're romantic again, attentive again, making plans again. You call it progress.
But progress has a direction. It moves forward consistently over time. What you're describing is a cycle, and cycles keep you in the same place, just with slightly different scenery.
Breadcrumb number 4, your needs are too much. You ask for basic emotional availability, to know where you stand, to have plans more than an hour in advance, to feel prioritized, and somehow you're being needy or pressuring them.
Listen up. The right partner won't experience your needs as pressure. They'll experience meeting your needs as a part of loving you. If your basic relational needs are consistently framed as demands, that's not a you problem. That's a breadcrumb disguised as your fault.
And we need to pause here for something critical. Even if your partner is working on their avoidant attachment, even if they're in therapy, even if they acknowledge their patterns, you still get to decide if the pace of change works for you. Their effort doesn't obligate your patience.
So why do smart people keep calling breadcrumbs progress? Let's break down the cognitive gymnastics that's happening.
First, there's what psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy. You've invested 6 months, a year, 2 years into this person. Your intelligent brain says, I've already put in so much time. Leaving now would mean that was all wasted.
But here's the reframe. Staying doesn't make the time any less wasted. It just wastes more time. The investment you've already made is gone, whether you stay or leave. The question now is, are you going to invest more time into something that isn't giving you a return?
Second, smart people are pattern recognizers. You can see the tiny improvements. Last month, he canceled plans twice a week. This month, it's only once a week. You're tracking data, looking for trends.
And that would be great if you were analyzing stock performance. But in relationships, you're not looking for incremental improvements in bad behavior. You're looking for fundamental shifts in how someone shows up for you.
Here's the standard. Someone who genuinely wants to be with you doesn't need 2 years to figure out how to text you back or make you feel secure. Growth takes time, yes, but basic relational respect, that shouldn't be a multi-year journey.
Third, and this one breaks my heart. Smart people often had to earn love in childhood. Maybe you were praised for achievements, but not for just being you. Maybe you learned that love is conditional on performance.
So now, when someone is inconsistent, your manager part goes, well, if I just figure out the right thing to say, the right way to be, the right amount of space to give, then they'll show up for me.
But love, real, secure love, isn't a puzzle you solve with the right combination of behaviors. It's not something you earn by being low maintenance enough, or understanding enough, or patient enough.
And both people need to understand this. If your partner's operating from, you need to earn my consistent presence, and you're operating from, I will keep trying to earn it, that's not a relationship dynamic. That's a trap.
Okay, so how do we override this rationalizing? How do you build a value system that's stronger than your brain's need to explain everything away? This is where we get practical.
First, you need to shift from tracking effort to tracking outcomes. Smart people get caught up in giving credit for trying. Well, they said they're working on it. They acknowledge the pattern. That's something.
And yes, awareness is the first step. But awareness without behavioral change is just awareness. Your value system needs to be, I will evaluate this relationship based on how I actually feel and what's actually happening, not on someone's stated intentions or explanations.
Here's the timeline test we use with clients. Whatever pattern you're concerned about, Whether it's inconsistent communication, lack of follow through, emotional unavailability, give it 3 months. Mark it on your calendar right now.
In 3 months, not 3 years, you should see measurable, consistent change if someone's genuinely doing the work. Not perfect change. None of us are perfect. I mean, maybe Vinci is. But consistent movement in a clear direction.
If in 3 months you're still having the same conversation, seeing the same patterns, feeling the same anxiety, that's your answer. That's not breadcrumbs moving toward that delicious warm loaf of bread. That's just breadcrumbs.
Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but 3 months isn't enough time for deep attachment healing. And you're absolutely right. Attachment work takes time. But here's the distinction. You're not measuring whether they're fully healed. You're measuring whether they're actively, consistently trying.
Someone who's genuinely working on their attachment patterns will be in therapy or actively reading, learning, or listening, acknowledge when they're in an avoidant pattern without you having to point it out every time, initiate repair conversations, not just participate when you bring it up, show small but consistent improvements in how they respond to your bids for connection.
If none of these things are happening consistently over these 3 months, then you're not with someone who's working on it. You're with someone who says they're working on it, which is very different.
And both of you need to be realistic about this timeline. If you, as the anxious partner, are demanding immediate perfection, that's not fair. But if you, as the avoidant partner, are asking for indefinite patience while making minimal effort, that's not fair either.
As for the second part of your value system, stop negotiating your non-negotiables. And I'm going to say this with so much love. If you don't know what your non-negotiables are, your intelligence will negotiate everything.
And this is where our Inner Circle growth members get access to the Building Your Value System worksheet we've created specifically for this. It walks you through identifying your actual needs, not what you think you should need, not what feels low maintenance, but what you genuinely need to feel secure and valued in a relationship.
Because here's what we've seen. Smart people often have very reasonable needs, but they've repackaged them as preferences or nice to haves because they don't want to seem demanding.
Wanting consistent communication? Non-negotiable. Is wanting to feel like a priority not optional? Then it's a non-negotiable. Wanting someone who doesn't make you beg for basic emotional availability? Also non-negotiable.
Once you have your non-negotiables clearly defined, your value system becomes, I will not rationalize someone's inability to meet my basic relational needs, regardless of how intelligent their explanation is.
All right, let's get into the science of why smart people get stuck in these patterns, because understanding the neuroscience actually helps you interrupt it. Research from Dr. Helen Fisher shows that romantic love activates the same reward center in the brain as cocaine. When you're getting inconsistent reinforcement, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. It creates what's called a variable ratio reward schedule. This is the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. Your brain releases dopamine not when you get the reward, but in anticipation of possibly getting the reward. So those breadcrumbs, they're actually creating stronger neural pathways than consistent love would, because your brain is constantly in that anticipatory state. For smart people, this is compounded by something called the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains are wired to remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. So that relationship that could work if we just figured out the right approach, your brain literally can't let it go because it registers it as an unsolved problem. Add in the sunk cost fallacy we talked about earlier, and you've got a perfect neurological storm. Dopamine keeping you hooked on the variable rewards, the Zeigarnik effect making you obsess over the unsolved puzzle, and loss aversion making it painful to walk away from your investment. Here's the intervention. You have to activate your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that can override these automatic responses. And you do that through externalization. Write down the pattern. Track it like data. Show it to your friend whose opinion you trust. Because when you externalize the pattern, you shift from your emotional limbic system to your analytical prefrontal cortex. And that's when smart people can actually use their intelligence instead of having it used against them. The neuroscience is clear. You can't think your way out of an emotionally reinforced pattern. You have to change the behavioral loop. And that starts with the timeline test and non-negotiables we just covered.
So let's get to the heart of it. Yenna, you asked how to move from accepting whatever attention you can get to choosing who has access to you based on your values. And that question right there, That's the entire journey from anxious to secure attachment. And you're already on it because you're asking the question. If you're someone who's accepting breadcrumbs, I need you to hear this. You're not accepting breadcrumbs because you're stupid. You're accepting them because at some point you learned that crumbs were all you deserved. Maybe you grew up in a home where love was conditional. Maybe your early relationships taught you that you have to work for scraps of affection. Maybe you've been told that you're too much so many times that you learn to make yourself smaller and smaller. And now you meet someone who gives you just enough to keep hope alive, but not enough to feel secure. And your system goes, oh, I know this dance. Let me show you how good I am at it. But here's what I want you to understand. The fact that you know how to survive on breadcrumbs doesn't mean you have to. The fact that you can twist yourself into a pretzel to accommodate someone's inconsistency doesn't mean you should. You've spent so much time using your intelligence to understand them, their attachment wounds, their childhoods, their fears. What if you used just a fraction of that analytical power to understand yourself? To ask, what is it costing me to stay in this pattern? Because I'll tell you what I've seen in therapy. People who accept breadcrumbs don't just lose the relationship. They lose their ability to trust their own judgment. They lose their sense of what they deserve. They lose the part of themselves that knew, somewhere deep down, that this wasn't okay. Your intelligence is a gift, but gifts can be weaponized. So the question is, are you going to keep using your gift to build a case for why someone's breadcrumbs are acceptable? Or are you going to use it to build a life where breadcrumbs aren't on the menu at all? The choice has always been yours. And if you're ready to choose differently, both you and your partner need to be willing to do this work. Because you can't build a secure relationship with someone who won't meet you halfway. Your value system isn't about being harsh or unforgiving. It's about finally being kind to yourself. It's about saying, I will no longer accept a relationship where I have to convince myself that less is enough. You are not too much. You never were. You've just been with people who were too little.
Next up, we're continuing the series with Why Smart People Ignore Sexual Intimacy Red Flags, because the bedroom tells you everything you need to know about emotional availability. But most people miss the signs because they're too busy rationalizing.
If you haven't yet signed up for our free weekly emails, you're missing out. We share relationship insights that don't make it into the videos. Sign up using the link in the description box below, and you'll receive these emails directly to your inbox every Wednesday. Think of it as your midweek boost between our Monday and Friday videos.
Subscribe and take care of your heart.
And remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together.